Welcome to another edition of Live from the Den in the D. I'm your host, peoples-bey. I got a good one for you today, folks. I got a guest with me, Mr. Joe Haashiim. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Let's get right to it. You said that you're running for the mayor of the city of Detroit in the next mayoral election. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why did you want to be a mayor of the city of Detroit? What brought you to this point?
Well, first and foremost, I think I can help the city of Detroit. I can improve the quality of life for the residents in the city of Detroit.
Okay.
I can make sure that our future, our children and our grandchildren have a better tomorrow in the city of Detroit, not having to leave to go to other cities so that they could try to get decent paying jobs and affordable housing, etc.
How long you been in the city of Detroit? Are you from Detroit?
I've been in Detroit since I was 3 years old. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. At 3 years old, my mother came here, and my family came here, and I've been in Detroit.
Pretty much all your life, pretty much.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any previous political experience, or have you ever held or ran, for elective office before?
I've never ran for political office. However, I have worked to get quite a few candidates in office here in the city of Detroit. I've always worked in the background, and so that's pretty much where my knowledge and experience comes from as it relates to politics.
Okay. Well, that's good. So I used to be you was an ex-businessman, right? You had a store and you did some wholesaling before, right?
Well, first and foremost, I had a store when I was 20 and a half years old. I opened up a Brothers Party store on West 7 Mile in Hartwell. I went on to open up two other stores. So I had three stores, and I sold those stores, and then I went into wholesaling. Selling to chain stores, Spartan Chain being my first, Kmart's, Winn-Dixie, TGNY, Pier 1. I've done business in over 26 countries.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
and I've done, yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So
I'm sorry.
basically, my business experience is, I've been on all types of other business ventures. I've done 15 trade delegations. So basically, that's the gist of my experience is business and understanding how to build. Empowerment.
Okay, but that's what we need, some building of empowerment. Well, can you name something that you're proud of in your professional path that you think you'll be able to apply to being the mayor of the city of Detroit?
Well, I think the most important thing is I've worked for many groups and organizations. Many of them say, well, we don't know him, but they do know me. Since I was a youngster, I started out at Vaughn's Bookstore, Black Nationalist Mindset, Nation of Islam, NAACP, SNCC. I belong to a lot of groups and organizations. So the most important thing that I'm proud of is my trade delegations. And the reason for that is the importance of international commerce for our community. The one thing they don't want us to have, the powers that be, is international commerce and what that actually means. So when you start to do trade delegations and meet with top government officials and bring corporations from America and for whatever country that you're dealing with in the delegation, then you have a lot of experience, because now you're talking about bringing business opportunities to different countries, including the U.S. So our biggest achievement was when we worked with Salim Khalid, Paul McCleary in Fracano when he was Wayne County exec.
Right.
We did a trade delegation to Qatar, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi. We took 34 large corporations from the U.S., the likes of GM, Co-America Bank, Blue Cross Blue Shield, etc. So we did that trade delegation. And the reason why our pictures weren't in the front is because we worked the back behind the scenes and we made that happen. And the advantages, GM and Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is operating in the Middle East now, that's because of us.
Okay.
GM's business expansion because of us. So no, we didn't get the photo shots from the news like the governor and the mayors and the Wayne County exec, but we were the ones that made it happen.
Okay. So how would you describe your management skills?
My what skills?
Your management skills. How would you describe your management skills?
I think they're great. Okay. I think understanding that the first important thing about managing is in the mayor's position is choosing a team that know how to manage their specific departments, and you making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Basically, you see a lot of people who are not experienced politicians taking office, and you're not necessarily seeing them not being successful. Management is just making sure that you're focused on each and every person in your team is doing what they're supposed to be doing and making them accountable.
Okay, since you said that, how would you handle a situation if a subordinates who have believed to have committed a crime? How would you handle a situation like that? If one of your subordinates, was believed to have committed a crime.
Believe that I have committed a crime?
No, I'm saying
them, someone on my team.
Yes. How would you handle something like that?
The first thing I'll do is I'll search out for the facts of the matter.
Okay.
And basically facts is the indicator as to whether or not they have some guilt.
Right.
And so basically, after I gather my facts, I'm going to call them in and express or ask the necessary questions to see if they're forthcoming with the truth. Okay. And at that point in time, a decision has to be made. If they were not forthcoming with the truth, then they should not be on your team.
Correct. I agree with that. Yeah. So let me ask you, what experience? Well, Detroit is a pretty large city. So what experience do you have with large budgets? I think Mayor Mike Duggan was just approved by the Detroit City Council for a $2.6 billion surplus for the 2024 fiscal year. How would you be equipped to handle a budget as large as $2.6 billion?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Here again, it is your, first of all, what we would do is go to zero budgeting.
Okay.
Where each department has to perform to justify their budget. And so based on that, that's how I, as mayor, would make all city departments accountable. You may be familiar with the fact that there are many city departments where millions and millions of dollars is missing.
Yes.
In Detroit. So I can name quite a few of those departments where millions of dollars, I think even the city council president spoke about some $70 million that were unaccounted for and they could not find. So zero budgeting would stop that. Obviously, someone's hands is in the cookie jar.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. You made a reference I read because I see the Detroit Free Press did an article on you, and I was reading the article that they did. And you made references, as far as this being two cities, downtown being the one, Dan Gilbert and the Ellis, they got all investors up there building all kind of different high rises. And then you said you got the inner city, so to speak. So I mean, they building up the downtown area, but that's not really nothing coming, to the inner cities as far as any help. You still got a lot of poverty, you still got a lot of bandit houses, you still got a lot of things that still like as an eyesore. So what would you do about the poverty, that's in the inner city? Because that's where we need the biggest help at.
Well, first and foremost, we have a 70-point empowerment platform. Mm-hmm. So basically, what we would do is begin to address all of those issues that we have in the inner city. And we would utilize the city's $2.6 billion budget. A small percentage of that would go to starting to address those issues, making sure that we have the resources in the inner city to address the problems. We need to address crime. We need to make sure our young people, or all people, have an opportunity to get a livable or occupational wage, get a skill set that allows them to live comfortable or better with good paying jobs. Okay. So we would have to address that, because for so many years, people speak about, well, crime is a big issue, but they never put the resources where they need to be to eradicate the problem. Okay. And I think we all know that. So what we have here is a large prison population that leaves out of Detroit because of our young people not having opportunities and lack of training. And so in order to stop that crime cycle that's in our community, we have to address it fully. And the programs that they put out here really does not help the problem. It may help a few people, but the majority of the people are not helped, and therefore they're living a life of crime or doing the type of things that hurt our community. Okay. So secondly, housing is a big issue.
Correct.
Our children, our grandchildren have to leave the city to find affordable housing. They have to leave the city to find jobs. Many of them go to Atlanta, LA, California, different parts of California, Texas, Greenville, South Carolina. These are cities or states that have a diverse economy and have many foreign corporations. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our people, for example, they go to Atlanta, Georgia. Right. Atlanta, Georgia has 1,500 foreign corporations. How many does Detroit have? Zero. None. Now, is that by design? That's a question we need to ask ourselves. Now, by me doing trade delegations, speaking with government officials, speaking with corporations who wanted to invest in Detroit, now I'm hearing from them what has been happening with the powers that be when they want to bring business into Detroit. I did 2 China delegations. Okay. And the Chinese wanted to bring in factories here into Detroit. And they told me what the obstacles were. We also had from one of the richest men in the Middle East, Abdul Rabbani, flew his private jet in to do business in Detroit. I want people to understand this, that there are people, countries, governments waiting for the opportunity to do business with Black America. Yeah. Another big example, I belong to the African American Japanese Society. Now, a lot of people didn't even know that existed. We took, back in the 80s, Southern Christian Leadership Delegation, along with many Black business people, to Japan. We took the black mayors in southern regions in the United States to Japan, and they met with the prime minister. Ronald Reagan sanctioned it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now here we're talking about people who want to do business. By the way, the music, they're knowledgeable about Black America more than we realize. In fact, in many of these foreign countries, they teach in their schools our history, and
Okay.
they're very familiar with not only our history but our Black inventors, our great contributions, and our music. It's loved worldwide.
Yeah.
And I've spoken with African governments and heads and corporations. You know, the world runs on the raw materials of Africa. And so now they're waiting for us to wake up, get ourselves together so that we can begin to do commerce. And so that's a game changer for our community and for Black America. So I just wanted to make sure that when we're speaking about the importance of trade delegations and being able to do international commerce and trade, how important that is to us here in America. And the corporations and the rich that have already been doing it, well, you know, it speaks for itself. That's how they stay in power and in control.
Well, let me ask you, how would you plan to involve the residents in the decision-making process here in the city of Detroit? How would you bring the people in where their voice can actually be heard?
You know, I'm one who very upset. You know, when you have serious matters going on and you can only speak for 2 minutes at city council, what I plan to do is hold meetings monthly for the community to actually meet with me and give them the necessary time, even if the calls had to be Zoom or if they came in person. I think it's very important, especially when big decisions have to be made for different types of projects in the city. The community should have their say so. You should know how do people feel about all of these serious issues.
So what do you feel right now? What do you feel is the biggest need of the mayor right now? And what would you do to fill that need if you was in position to fill it? What do you think the biggest need for the mayor right now?
You mean what he should do right now?
Yes, his priority.
Okay. His priority? Well, his priority should be to truly respect the residents and the communities in Detroit. I think he has grossly disrespected the community and the people not knowing and understanding when they've been disrespected, because many of them think he's doing a good job. Take, for example, the transportation system. Last week, the mayor rode the bus. Well, he's in his third term, and we haven't had a viable transportation system since he's been in office. Now, this is how we look at things. Many children take the bus to go to school. Now, when they get out of school, if they have to wait an hour and a half or 2 hours for a late bus and get home late, can't do their homework or, you know, and eat dinner and chores they need to do, well, nobody has spoken up of how that affects our children for over 10 years. And we understand that without a viable transportation system, you can't bring in good paying jobs. It works to help gentrify our community. The handicapped and people who have, you know, special needs, they're having transportation issues. And this has went on for over 10 years. Now, you go to any decent city, most of urban America, and you'll find that they have bus stops with shelters and benches.
Right.
And that's only a few in Detroit. So imagine your child in the snow or rain, waiting for a bus when they leave school, no place to sit, and no shelter. Now that's went over for over 10 years. How could he be doing a good job for our community? He is doing a good job for the corporations and the rich,
Yeah.
but for our community, we have been grossly disrespected and don't even recognize it. And that's just one example.
Well, let me ask you, what 3 steps would you take to put the city of Detroit on a firmer financial footing? What would you do to, put it a little more balanced, a little more even keel?
Yes, sir. The first thing I would do is work hard for Detroit to have its own municipal bank. A public bank is what we need. And this is why. And for over 11 years, I have been promoting a public bank for Detroit. I went to certain politicians, office holders. Some of them wasn't in office yet, and I worked for their campaign or with them, and I asked them to promote this idea. They said it was far-fetched, it wasn't viable. And the last mayoral election, the state of California implemented it into law. Now you have about 12 or 13 California cities. Philadelphia, about 9 months ago, you can Google it, now have a public bank. And it was set up for the extreme purpose of Black entrepreneurs or Black businesses and brown businesses in the city of Philadelphia. So if we want to put Detroit on a firm foundation, I'll shorten it up real quick for you.
Okay.
Us having our own public bank, we cut out the middleman. The corporations and the rich no longer get paid off of our budget. There's no middleman.
Okay.
Now it belongs to the people. So now you have the budget in your own bank. And once you understand banks and banking regulations, you know how they make money. We have a lot of other issues. So when you're talking about putting Detroit on a firm financial foundation, we're looking at redlining. We're looking at high insurance rates for cars and homes. Yeah. We're looking at the people who could not get a mortgage because the criteria was not right or fair. So we're looking at a variety of scenarios that need addressing that we can address through our public bank. That's our money working for us and not the rich and the corporations. So give you another example. We set up a viable housing program. Already they have taken about 5 of my ideas from the last time I ran for mayor. So if people were familiar with when I ran for mayor before and I was sharing, I had a 70-point empowerment platform, there were people who was listening and they implemented those programs right here. So obviously we have a great platform that will improve the quality of life for Detroit. So that would be the first thing we would do, municipal banking. The second thing we would do, we would hit the ground running and we would start to make Detroit the international city it should be. And we would bring in, and that's where a lot of my experiences are. I've done business in 20 countries and I've done 15 trade delegations. So that's how we would also put Detroit on a stronger financial foundation. And last but not least, we have a program to make sure that small businesses survive in the city of Detroit. So those are the 3 things we would do.
Well, I was, lately I've been talking to some people, as far as the homelessness in the city of Detroit. Now, I was totally taken back because there are a lot of people that's homeless that has job. They call them working homeless people. I spoke with a lady, and she was, her and her children were staying in a shelter, and she said she had a job, but she was homeless, not because she was on drugs or the typical thing, but she was the place she was living at. The rent went from 800 to like 1,200. The landlord pretty much wanted to double the rent. So what is this consumer in demand? How can we control that? I mean, here it is. You got people that's paying $800 2 or 3 months, and after they lease run out, they go from 800 to 1,200. So that's putting a lot of people out in the streets as well. And the homeless in Detroit, is real bad. So what would you do about the homeless problems and all this inflation in the rental thing that's going on nowadays?
Well, the first thing is you need a comprehensive program, okay? And our program for housing would be setting up the city now, which was my idea when I ran for mayor before. One of those ideas was setting up a separate city department for building, okay? Where we would train the residents of the city, and we would utilize my knowledge and experience in building. I've went to many countries selling building systems, and how you can actually utilize quality home building without the impact of high cost of materials and labor. So we have a plan that we can bring in. Now you have your own public bank. So now your public bank will finance the mortgages for people who want an opportunity to own their own home.
Okay.
And so now you're putting money in the city treasury, which also adds to that foundation for economic stability. Okay. So now you're looking at how much land is in Detroit that's available, and what type of revenue can be brought in just through your own bank financing housing projects, and making sure that you can bring the rents down. Then that's supply and demand. So Detroit's supply is low, and that's by design as well.
Yes.
So once we understand that, then we can address this problem holistically, and no one will be homeless in the city of Detroit unless they just want to be. Correct. Because we have a plan to make sure that no one has to be out in the cold and homeless. Okay. And we have the ability to do that, but the problem is we're allowing the rich and the corporations to get rich off of Detroit's assets, and off of Detroit's budget, and off of Detroit's tax dollars.
Okay. Well, somebody texted and say, is the rental inflation stemming from the COVID problem? Because they say a lot of people feel that's what it's stemming from, the COVID pandemic.
Well, inflation period is a sequence of events that's taking place. The most important thing is to understand inflation is when you have too much money chasing too few goods. Okay. So it doesn't matter if it's housing, food, energy, it doesn't matter. What matters is if it becomes in short supply and you have everyone has money, now your prices are going to rise because the cost of pumping oil out the ground, international events, weather, and destroying food. So all of these factors come into when you're talking about inflation. However, if you have a mayor who's really working for the people, who has foresight and vision, then he can find ways to make sure that inflation is not an issue when it comes to housing.
Okay. So let me ask you, what do you think, since we're speaking about the mayor, what do you think are the most important skills that a mayor should behold? What do you think about the most important skills of a mayor?
Of America?
Of a mayor.
Oh, of a mayor.
Yes.
I think the most important skill is the knowledge of empowerment and how to build.
Okay.
And that's why we have an empowerment platform. If you have a mayor who has years of experience in politics or have a lot of degrees, that doesn't necessarily transcend into helping the people, as we can see since Coleman Young Sr. We have had mayors that were lawyers. We have had mayors that were athletes, etc. How has that turned out for our community? Yeah. So the most important thing is, how do we build? Now, I'm not deviating too far from the subject here, but I want to bring in a point. When you don't have the knowledge of how to build and to protect that building, Detroit had many businesses here in Detroit when I was growing up. Yeah. Black businesses everywhere.
Right.
And so those businesses don't exist anymore.
Right.
And the question is, why? Now, when I became a wholesaler, before I sold to chain stores, I was selling to those small party stores in the city of Detroit. And so this is what I learned. You know, we all know unity is a big issue. And what we have to understand is that when we're talking about getting our money, getting, you know, hey, that's what's up. I'm getting mine first. So I don't have any empathy for nobody else. I'm pretty much just focusing on my own personal empowerment, whether it's education, entrepreneurship, etc., right? Skill set. But we have to address the question, what does it take to empower a people?
Correct.
That's where we're missing the boat. We have a lot of great leaders. And one thing I noticed that they all said, we needed to build. Okay? So what we've been doing is watching other people build and fighting and criticizing each other.
Right.
That's what we've been building. We've been building, tearing down each other. So understanding empowerment is an issue, and it's not very many people that really understand that. Give you an example. You have a lot of people in our community that they don't vote. They say, well, the system's crooked. Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. But the political apparatus is controlling your life from A to Z. They're telling you how much taxes you have to pay. They're setting up policy for you, your children, and your grandchildren. So if you don't take control over your local community, what does that mean? Because you found a reason. Now, religious groups, they say they don't vote, but I don't see anything in the scripture, Bible, Quran, Gita, Vedas, or any other book that tell you don't control your own community.
Right.
We're the only people who think that we can accomplish something without unity. So the instruction is simple. Sit down at the table. Anything that you're going to build, I only know a few people can build a structure without a plan. To build anything, whether it's a structure, a physical structure, or to build a relationship, or to build a company, you got to sit down and plan. You have to be strategic. So that's where your empowerment comes from, unity. So the same people who say that, oh, they following God and they this and they that, but they don't take control of their own community. So this is what they do. Okay, they set up a school. Okay, I'm going to educate my children better and different. Okay, But then when your children have to go out into the world and get a job, what you doing? Because you didn't set nothing up for them. We don't set jobs up for our children, our grandchildren. So you're educating them whatever you want to teach them, whether it's Afrocentric or whatever it is. So what this is a letdown from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Not understanding the idea of empowerment. And we're the only people in America who are not empowered.
Yeah.
So understanding how to build is the answer to that question. Understand empowerment and understand that we haven't had power long, and we haven't been empowered as a people long. We had some phases of it through our great leaders, starting from Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey, Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King, etc. And even Minister Farrakhan, great leaders.
Right.
But we have to understand how to build. Because if you don't understand how to build, they say, oh, start a business. Oh, okay, start the business. Well, when the powers that be want to run something through your neighborhood and destroy those businesses and make those people move, what happens to our businesses? This is historic throughout the history. Right. So just to tell people, oh, run out, start your business and be empowered, and no, get the political apparatus to protect your business like it does GM, Ford, and other large concerns. It is the political apparatus that's giving them those tax abatements where they don't pay taxes for 35 years. 30 or 35 years, no taxes. That's how the rich get richer and the poor get poor. And they're using your tax dollars to launch the project.
Right.
So if we don't actually wake up, and I'm not going religious, but Jesus said you have eyes and you see not, you have ears and you hear not. And that used to get me. Now I understand it. We operating at 3/5. The Constitution said you operating at 3/5. So when Jesus took away your eyes, said you have eyes and see now, you have ears and hear now, you're operating on 3/5. Now I'm not going into the sixth sense and the pineal gland and all that. We've got 5 senses. If you take 2 of them away, you're operating on 3/5. If you don't understand what you're seeing around you and you don't understand what you're actually hearing, then you're operating at 3/5. Is that right?
That's right.
So we have to understand how to build. We have to understand what we're really dealing with. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, it does. I'm gonna move off a little bit from that, because you did answer that question. But we have been dealing with a lot of school shootings, and the parents and the school districts, as well as the law enforcement agencies. They're all trying to find a way to ensure that the staff as well as the school itself is safe. What would you do to make our schools a little more safer?
Okay, well, yes, sir. The first thing I would do is definitely take a piece of that city budget and allocate at least $1 million to $2 million to our schools to uplift not only our learning, but our safety. So what we need to do for school right now, because it's not unusual when I was growing up where, every now and then somebody bring a pocket knife to school or something like that. And, when you have a weapon, you get brave, So, but now we have a much more serious issue. I have 2 children in the public school system, one 15 and one 12. So I definitely am concerned, and I have 18 grandchildren. Some are going to college now, but I still have some that's going to Detroit Public School, right? Live in Detroit. So I have a big concern about safety. And I think what we can do is to make sure that we do a little more equipment for making sure that our children are not smuggling weapons into the school, making sure that we actually teach them uh, conflict resolution, make sure that our teachers and counselors or have a set group, whether it be a counselor that can be on top of a situation in some of these high schools where things can get rough, especially at some of these athletic games.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do. I would make sure that we also in the communities where our schools are. I think we need mini stations.
Mm-hmm. They had that.
At least, yeah, they had it before. We would set it up a different way, but I think basically it's very important that police get to the scene when we have issues in our schools or anywhere really. So that's what I would do. I would utilize that budget for more.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So let me ask you, how can the mayor have an impact on the opioids and the drug problem here in the city of Detroit?
Okay. We know for so many years, over 50 years, Detroit's been fighting a drug problem
Yeah.
with gangs, with just a large addiction. We realize the impact of crack and heroin on our community for many, many years. We passed laws that didn't work. And so now we still have the same problem. So what we would do is take a different approach. We would look at some things that we can do in Detroit to take things out of one area and try to put it in a where it's not all over the city. I'm not going to say a red light district, but I think now that we have marijuana legalized and we see it's even if your children, whether they're riding with you in the summertime or I mean, we smell this, right?
Right.
And they know people are getting high, smoking this or doing gummies or whatever they're doing. We see this. So we would have to study this problem, look at some other cities that may have did some things that working for them. But I think we should definitely consider, uh, setting up zones or areas where where they are legally selling what they're selling. And even if it's not legal, let it be away from our children and our grandchildren because we're losing them.
Yeah. So let me ask, how are you funding your campaign right now?
Well, we just set up our funding account, and we're going to be advertising for people who want change, people who hear my platform, people who understand it makes sense, people who understand you don't have to be a skilled politician or you don't have to know somebody real well. I don't think they knew Duggan real well. I don't think they knew Bean real well. I don't think they knew Archer real well. So just the fact that you have a name association does not mean you know someone well. So look at what's being shared. And if you want change, then $1, 5, 10, 20, 100, 200. It's Joel Haashiim for mayor at Independence Bank. We'll have some more on Cash App and some others ways where people can donate. So if you see and understand what I'm sharing and you know it's right, and I'm speaking about doing the type of things that I will do, people don't understand it. just having someone with education but no courage to stand up for the people does you no good if they had all the degrees in the world.
Yeah.
If they're not going to be truthful and courageous and honest, what good does that do our community?
Absolutely not.
So if you're going to let experienced politicians get up there and lie, and I want to say one more thing to that. The rich and the corporations are going to spend a lot of money to keep someone like myself from being mayor. Why? Because they know as mayor, they're going to have to pay their fair share of taxes. Now, you have a president right now, been saying it for over a year. It's time for the rich and the corporations to pay their fair share of taxes. Now, you have a mayor in the city of Detroit, and the rich and the corporations, oh man, they're willing out these tax abatements. It's on steroids.
Yeah.
So I'm not against tax abatements. But when you can make, for example, $1.5 billion investment, and you're not going to pay any taxes for 35 years. And at the end of 35 years, the minimum they're going to make is $26 billion. Something's wrong with that picture. My children, my grandchildren need a level playing field. So how rich are their children going to be? And when and where and how can my children compete?
Okay. So have you received any endorsements as of yet?
I have, and I'm expecting more.
Okay.
And basically, I'm not looking for the professional politicians and government workers who would be against the people having a better quality of life. I'm not against. I'm not focused on them. I'm focused on the people that are suffering, that know that we need change, that want a better quality of life. That's where my focus is.
Okay.
So all them other people and all them big groups and organizations who are sitting around waiting for crumbs off the table of the rich and the corporations and the political apparatus, they don't want to see this either. And that's why we have the problem that we have in Detroit.
Okay.
That's why our community is the way that it is, because they don't really have, they may say they're fighting for black people's rights or brown people's rights, but no, they're getting paid.
Okay. And lastly, why should voters cast a ballot for you? What makes you different from the other candidates? We're ended on that one.
Yes, sir. I just shared public banking, using your money for you, your tax dollars for you, for your community. I can clearly say that what they have already heard, if that didn't sound better, if they didn't see where they could connect the dots and have a better quality of life, with me, everyone's will have a better quality of life. And those who want to sit at the table of prosperity, we will provide an environment for our young people to start businesses. We have an empowerment platform for business. So we're talking about making important change in the city of Detroit that will impact the lives of all the residents and improve it. And it will put a future here for our children, our grandchildren. They won't have to go to Atlanta and Ohio and et cetera, et cetera. So basically, it's your conscience and your heart. So what I'm sharing, who else is sharing it? And these are the things that are needed for us in the city of Detroit.
There we got something to say. He is right. The corporations don't want An honest person in office. That was for somebody that was viewing us. So again, I'd like to thank you for coming out. I think you hit on some good points. Some very good points. I'm just like to thank you and going to keep in contact with you as the ball rolled out of here. I'm gonna wish you best in your endeavors. Until next time, have a pleasant day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, take care. God bless.
Bless you too.
Okay. Well, everybody, that's conclude my show. Appreciate those who did watch, and we're just trying to see what the condition of Detroit and what can be dealt with in Detroit. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed. Not downtown, because we know they are building up downtown. You go downtown now, you can't even recognize it. But if you go in an urban community, it still look the same. Abandoned homes and the same thing we've been seeing for quite some time. So again, until next time, search out someone to be kind to. And just maybe in your search of others, someone will find you and be kind to you. Love one another and be kind to each other. Till next time. Peace.